WQAD News 8, this is WQAD This Week.
Good morning. It's Sunday, February 5th. Thank you for joining us for News 8 This Week. I'm John Diaz. Freshman Congressman Eric Sorensen was sworn into office about a month ago. The former meteorologist now represents Central and Northwest Illinois in the U.S. House. And this past week, Representative Sorensen announced he has been selected to serve on the House Agriculture and the Science, Space, and Technology Committees. This morning, he joins us in studio. All right, Representative Eric Sorensen, how does that feel to hear that?
Right. It's different.
Sure.
But I'm the same person that people have gotten to know and trust over the years. So, in fact, I ran into a lady in the airport. She said, "Do I have to call you Mr. Sorensen now?" And I said, "Absolutely not. We've had a relationship before." And she was just a viewer on TV.
Call me Eric.
So I said, "Call me Eric."
Yeah, exactly. When did it hit you, though? Was it election night? Was it when you saw the plaque at your office or dropped the box off? When did it sort of really land?
I think it was the first time that I walked into the chamber of the House of Representatives. It was when I learned that there have only been 12,000 people who have ever been able to call themselves Americans. Of all of the people, only 12,000 people have been able to work in the Capitol building. There have been 10,000 members of the House of Representatives and only 2,000 senators. And that my community has trusted me to be one.
Yeah, that must be an overwhelming feeling as well.
It is, because there's still a lot to learn, right? It's a new job. So it's making sure that we have the team in place, not only in Washington to work on the legislation, but that we have the team in place here in the Quad Cities to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the constituents. As people make the phone call and say, "Hey, I need help on my Social Security," or "I need help with the VA," or "I need help with Medicare," that we're able to help them.
We were talking before our interview started just about how it is a new job. There's a lot to learn. Is it a fire hose of information coming at you? Because I imagine you prepare for the job, but do you really know everything that you need to know and everything that you don't know, essentially?
What's really interesting for me, the process of being the candidate was the toughest part, because not only did I need the coach, but I needed the teacher. I needed the coach to help me understand what we're doing, and then the teacher to say the why. But I'll tell you, the most interesting thing, or one of the most interesting things about going to Congress, is the fact that the House of Representatives is a really, really cool place, because this is the place where people all over the country elect their particular representatives. So, you know, we've got doctors, we've got pediatricians, we've got bookkeepers, we've got a woman who's an auto mechanic in Southern Washington. We have a meteorologist. So there are people from all different walks of life, all socioeconomic backgrounds, and all geographies, all put in one place and all learning the same thing together. And that's pretty remarkable.
Let's talk a little bit about swearing-in day.
Right.
I don't necessarily want to ask you this question.
Days.
Days, yeah, I guess so. From a Democrat versus Republican perspective, but from a brand new person in Congress who probably had an idea of what to expect, and then it went a little bit differently. You're watching that. What are you seeing? What are you kind of thinking to yourself? And what are you doing kind of in the background there?
One of the things that I did during this process, this almost week-long process of getting a Speaker of the House, my perspective being someone who was new, I went and talked with the people that had been there for a long time. To be able to ask, Congressman Steny Hoyer, what does this mean to you? You've worked here for a long time. I kind of played the role as the reporter, asking the questions.
Right.
And it was that this was completely unorthodox. But also another thing is, I wanted to know on the other side of the aisle what people were thinking about what was going on. And one of the great things in the month-long time that I've been in Congress, I've gotten to get to know people from the other side of the aisle, the moderate Republicans that want to get stuff done. And all they wanted to do in that week was to get the Speaker so that we can get the committees to get to work.
When you're having those conversations, I think folks are going to think that maybe there is this divide and that it can be very contentious, and I imagine it can be, but is there also a lot of working together, maybe in the background, that you've experienced so far?
Right, I think we saw a little bit of that. So after the 117th Congress ended and the 118th began, C-SPAN was allowed to show the different camera angles. And you actually got to see on the floor of the House some of the conversations that happened that we would never have known about. That Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez and Matt Gaetz do have conversations. Just because it's a Democratic cloakroom does not mean that a Republican can't come in there and be welcomed. And that we do have friendships with people on the other side of the aisle. I think that's one of the things that people don't understand. But also that's one of the things that makes me optimistic in a time where, we've got this divided government, right? It seems like we're doing this. I think it gives us an opportunity to work together. And maybe that's the best thing that we need.
Let's talk about your committee appointments.
Right.
How was that process in sort of raising your hand and saying, hey, I want to be part of these?
Yeah.
And what's your voice going to be in those committees?
Well, first things first, my voice in the committees are going to be to make sure, Congress holds the keys, the purse strings. We've got to make sure that we've got an advocate in Washington that is going to bring the funds back home. And that's first and foremost. We've got to make sure that we're resilient going forward. And then to select two committees that are going to have the direct impact on the people who live here. So number one, my background as a meteorologist needed to be on science, space science and technology, to be able to sit at the table as we do the research to find the solutions to the problems that we have today, and then to be able to bring those back home. So when we talk about sustainability, it's not just sustainability in the environment, it's sustainability for jobs. It's sustainability for agriculture. So going into the Agriculture Committee, with the fact that John Deere is located right here. There was a reason why John Deere moved the headquarters of his company from Grand Detour to Moline in 1848. It was because we've got the power to get it done here. And so being a part of the Agriculture Committee, we've got a Farm Bill coming up. We've got to make sure that the things that are in the Farm Bill are going to affect us positively right here at home.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. I mean, that's just a huge piece of legislation. We could spend a whole day talking about it and still probably not completely understand it. But are there specific things that you're going to be looking for in that bill that really are going to affect not only Illinois, but the Midwest in general?
First and foremost for me, and this is what I hear from farmers when I talk with them too, I think number one is in order to make a decision on the Farm Bill, we've got to have farmers at the table. And that's exactly what we're going to do. We'll have farmers from all over, from central Illinois, northern Illinois, and western Illinois. But what I hear from our family farmers especially is we need to make sure that our crop insurance program is resilient. We're seeing too many of these extreme events that happen, whether it's the derecho. Thank goodness that the derecho, as it moved through eastern Iowa and western Illinois, that happened after the harvest, thank goodness. But we're seeing downbursts, we're seeing tornadoes, we're seeing flood and drought, and these are affecting our family farmers. We need to make sure that the solutions are brought back home and that crop insurance is there, but also my focus for farmers has always been to make sure that we give our farmers what they need to survive. It's harder and harder today to be able to grow on the same plot of land that so many family farmers have had for generations. And what I want to be able to do is find out whatever the solution is, bring that solution home so that our family farmers can go to bed tonight and sleep well, knowing that their kids, their grandkids, and their kids are going to be able to be right there on that land.
All right, last question for you. Your time in Congress, your term in Congress will go by very quickly.
Right.
I can only imagine. At the end of this term, folks are going to have to judge whether you have done your job well. How do they measure success?
I think that's a really great question, and one of the, I think maybe it's a double-edged sword. The fact that Congress, the term lasts just 2 years. Because certainly by the time we get through 2 years, I may be just hitting my stride. But that's proving to the people of Western Illinois that I'm deserving of the position. I go back and I look a lot at what did Lane Evans do in Western Illinois to earn the trust of the people so many times over. He was trustworthy, he got things done, he stood up for our veterans, and so looking at the people that have come by before me, you know, whether that is Representative Schilling, whether that is Congresswoman Bustos, I stand on the shoulders of the people that have come before me. And I hope to be able to exceed the expectations that the people sent me to do.
Representative Sorensen, thank you for taking time this week.
Thank you, John.